Welcome back to Hot Rod Guy Garage. This is going to be another episode on 65 Mustang. So follow me along through the intro and I'll be back. Alright guys, so it's been another week, which means we need to get some work done on 65. Unfortunately, I have got some pieces that have come in from our friends over at Kentucky Mustang, so make sure you check them out. There'll be a link down in the description to their website, along with a discount code that'll save you a little bit of money. So I ordered some new quarter window assemblies, and the reason why I ordered assemblies was his old glass is junk and his old bezels around the glass are junk. So we'll start this one off. I'm going to flip it around. I'll show you the window mechanisms and all the stuff related to it, but we need to get those in this car so we can get the rest of the interior put together. So I said in the last video I wasn't even going to clean them up, but I did. I cleaned them up. I didn't clean none of the welding slag or any of the overspray or anything off, but you can see the condition right here of your chrome around your windows. And you can buy this as an assembly with new glass and the new pieces here. And I come in here and I just kind of clean this stuff up. I'm not going to be real worried about painting it up and making it look pretty since it's inside the quarter panel. And they did work fine. I will just clean the old grease up and we'll re-grease these things. Clean the slides out and stuff so everything works properly. Sometimes guys, and I could take time to paint all this stuff, make it all pretty, but you will never ever see it. It's in decent shape. It's not pretty. It's got some overspray from the car before and some overspray from, from about everything that they've done this car in the past. However, they are in good shape and all the rollers have been changed, surprisingly. So let me flip it back around. I'll show you what we got in the box and what we need to install in this video. So these are ACP windows, and the only thing that I seen that I really didn't care for on these is this modern script right down here in the bottom window. And I understand that, they have to mark this stuff nowadays, but this kind of really stands out. And if your stuff's trashed like his old stuff was, that's about your only option. That right there is the part number for the driver's side, and that's where we're going to start, it's the driver's side. Also got some springs and some, the door handle kit and all that stuff to put all the panels back on it. Hopefully in this video I can get the rear seat in the car and the rear interior metal panels and get all that stuff all trimmed out and finished up. That way on our next video we can move on to getting the front door glass and the vent windows assemblies, and along with door handles and locks and all that other fun stuff. Putting a car together that was in this bad a shape as this car was from the beginning is quite the treat, guys, because you don't know what's missing, you don't know what's broke. You just kind of have to wing it as you go, and sometimes you run into problems where you need more pieces than what you had. So I remember these quarter slides, the slides that go in there for your glass, the guides. I remember them being quite the pain to get out because all the hardware was screwed up. So I'm hoping I can dig through some of his old hardware over here. I've took off other pieces of the car and find something that we can use that's acceptable. So at this point, let's get this glass off this old guide assembly. Like I said, I've got all this stuff off and cleaned up, and the window regulators in decent shape. Just need some fresh grease in places, so we'll do that too here in a few. But let's get this glass off the slide. It's got a bolt broke off in the bottom of it down here, so we're going to have to extract it too. So I'm going to put y'all on the big stand. Let me show you how to get the quarter window off the track assembly. This glass will pull out like this right here, and it'll be a good time to clean all your old grease out of here. And what you end up with, as you can see, you got 3 rollers here that can wear out. And your track is riveted on right here. So at this point, if you're just replacing the glass in the car, you would have just took them 2 bolts out, pulled that out. However, I'm going to take time now. We're going to clean these tracks up. I'm going to get our new glass open and cleaned up. We can go from there. And the easiest way I found to get this old hardened grease out of these channels, guys, just use a little small wire brush on the grill, and you can go in here and clean it up, and it'll take this stuff off. like so. As you can see, all that come out your slide. You don't want to put that in there with fresh grease because it'll get in there and it'll wear them rollers out. So I'm just going to repeat this process on this side. I'm going to do this one a little bit more because there's still some right there. Get these things cleaned up. Might spray a little black paint on them. I've got to get this bolt out that was all screwed up from before. Wire brush this off right here. We'll get this cleaned up. Get it ready to go back together. And I got this cleaned up. I just sprayed a little cast iron lacquer on it just to kind of protect it a little bit. What I use to lubricate your slides here, what I want to use, this is from my friends over at Steel Camel. This is their thread and post. This is an anti-seize, a battery terminal protector, corrosion inhibitor. This stuff's real great stuff, guys. And it works real great for like these window slides. And it's not like regular anti-seize. You get it on your skin, it wipes right off. So let's take a little bit of this and put it in here in these tracks. I'm not going to get super wild with it. But you want to make sure just get it up in here in these sides and on the base. Just use enough to make the lubrication happen, but not enough to make a mess. You get what I'm saying? It's real easy to get too much in here of this stuff or any of the other kinds of things you might put in here. I've seen people use white lithium grease on them. I'm not a real big fan of that. I've been using this stuff in the background and I really like it for applications like this because dirt don't even seem to really stick to it. And it does never dry out. So brush a little over the top here, and as you can see, it's not globbed in there. So we're gonna have our new window right here. As you see, it comes with new stops. You can slide this in from the bottom too, guys. I just take the stops off and just go ahead and pull it through the top. But I'm just gonna take some more of this and I'm just gonna paint my rollers. They're really not a roller because they don't roll. They're more of a guide. And they're Teflon. And this stuff will not affect any of the Teflon or anything on them. This stuff is pretty inert when it comes to rubbers and everything else. It's meant for electrical connections, so you don't really have to worry about it all that much. Reacting with anything. I put a little extra on my rollers than I did in the slides, but they're just going to come down here like this. Line these up on the bottom. And the first two usually go in pretty easy. And then that third one down there at the bottom. And I'll just work this up and down a few times. Just to make sure this moves good and free. If your glass is kicking to the side or anything, it's because you have one of these guides damaged. This glass should literally not move more than about 1/8 or 1/16 of an inch. And after cleaning all this stuff out, we're good and snug. Our stops line up real well. Everything seems to be happy. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of our Steel Camel anti-seize in here. This is where I'm going to have to do it inside the quarter panel later. Like I said, I'm not going to glob a load of it on there. Just enough. And I'm going to put a little bit more in here. Just to make sure that this is well lubricated in here. For many years to come. And I know a few of you are probably going, well, you can install it as an assembly. That is true too. You are going to have to take it apart and put it back together in the car. I like to mock it up like this to make sure everything slides freely. I'm not going to have any issues. So you're going to take the guide assembly, you're going to feed it down into your quarter panel. I'm not going to bolt it up yet. I just get it laying in there. That way it's loose. And at this point, I've got the quarter window back out. I've got it sitting here on the towel in the floor. I'm going to feed the quarter window down, and then we're going to line all these guides up inside the quarter panel, which is going to be almost impossible for me to show you guys. So I'm going to put you on time lapse on the trunk, looking through the back window, because it's the only way I can do it. That way you can kind of have an idea of what's going on. And I'll be back once I get the quarter and the slide assembly into the car. So I'd rather pull teeth than deal with quarter windows in one of these cars. Messing with window regulators and slides and stuff, that's not my favorite thing anyway. So I've got the glass and the track inside the quarter panel. It's all one piece. So you're going to have 3 bolts. You're going to have 2 at the top of the quarter panel and 1 at the bottom. And what this slide does, and I'm going to show you this. You need to make sure these are in your car before you put any of this stuff down in there. These are what you thread into in the body. There'll be 2 tabs off the inner structure of the outer quarter. There'll be 1 down there at the base at your rocker panel. So I can flip them around and show them to you. So 1 bolt there. Through each one of these holes. Bolt there. There's a bolt there. You will have to pull this glass up. You're going to have to pull that glass up to get them upper 2 bolts in there, because there's holes cut out in the frame of it. It would be nice if all this stuff fit in one piece down the quarter panel together, but there's just not as wide of a slot there as you would need to do so. So, those 3 bolts, what do? Well, they hold that window guide to the car, but they're also your adjustment on your window for your forward, backward tilt, and your up and down. This thing will move around quite a bit. So what I like to do, I'll pull that quarter window up, straighten it up best I can, and get it back and get my bottom bolt tightened up, and then I'll tighten my front bolts, or my top bolts up. That will give you a baseline to get these things adjusted. Now keep in mind, they also got to line up with door glass, so they can't be too far back, but they need to be back far enough they can seal on that roof rail weather strip right there. And from here, you need to install your window regulator assembly and its stabilizing guide also. I will show you the best way I can to do these. Like I said, guys, this is almost impossible to film inside in here. So let me see what I can do. So it's an SA quarter panel. We'll get into adjusting this glass here in a little while, but what you're gonna have, this is your window regulator right here, and I know it looks bad, but it works. And you're gonna have 4 bolts that hold this to this quarter panel, and those 4 bolts are gonna be in these positions here. So you got 4 bolts around this, but you're also gonna have a window stop, and you can see I reinstalled it right there. This is to keep your regulator from overextending itself. This one, there's this bolt hole right here, and this one next to it. There's a slot right here above it, and that's where that one goes. So, like I said, it's hard for me to show you guys this stuff sometimes. And right here, you got this little Y piece right here. This roller that points towards the inside goes inside your window track down here at the bottom, right here. But you got to get this assembly up in here into this while getting this into that, and that is where it becomes hard to film. So hopefully I explained that well enough where you understand what's going on. But this stuff literally wrestles up in here. It don't go up in there easy. It's very easy to tear paint off or hurt stuff. Take your time, go slow, make sure everything slides freely. Alright, after you get your regulator and your stop in there, the next thing you need to put in is this guide right here. And I know it's almost impossible to see where the other end of it is. It's literally just right here inside this lip. And what this does is this thing sits inside here, right here. I do believe it sits in this orientation, maybe the other. It's been a minute since I took it apart, but this one sits in here and keeps your regulator going straight up and down. So I'm just going to try this a couple different ways up in here. Until it looks like it's sitting correctly to me. So you may have to fiddle with it a little bit, but that's pretty much going to be it. So guys, you should end up with a window that at least goes up and down. As you see, this one don't go all the way down, because they did not install the window stop when they put this car together the first time. Unfortunately, there is none. So I stuck a bolt in it to stop it there. So I've got a choice. I need to order him some new ones and wait another week, or I can rob the ones off my 66. Tough choices. But you would think you would be done at that point too. There's two bolts. If you're looking at the inside of the quarter panel to the right hand side towards the bottom, there's two bolt holes. That's where that window stop goes in. And you can adjust how far the window goes down. They should go down flush with the top of the quarters where you can't see them. But sometimes they don't always do that. But at this point, I got these bolts just snugged up. These are just hand snugged up. This one down here is just snugged up. I tightened these for this slide. But the window's good and smooth. It's quiet. I'm real happy with that. Our upward stops seem to be in an appropriate position where we can seal off up here. That's actually a gap in the chrome up there of this window where it's put together. So like I told you before, guys, all old cars leak water somewhere. Got picky evils. So the three bolts that you put in on the guide assembly that has an up and down adjustment, that will limit how far that window goes up and goes down. So you may have to loosen those bolts up if your window won't go up all the way enough to get up in that rubber hard. You want to push up in that roof weather strip hard and tight to the back. That will help it seal. The easiest way I found to do it, roll your window up, just barely crack them bolts loose. You can take your 8-pry bar, stick down here on the bottom, push that thing up. There's also an in and out adjustment, controls the swing, towards the outside of the car or the inside of the car. Where that bottom bolt is, that 1/2-inch bolt, there's two bolts that bolt it to the body, to the inside of the rocker panel down there. You loosen those bolts up to swing that window in and out. And your regulator doesn't have any adjustment. It just bolts up and that's where it is. So hopefully I explained that well enough where you guys can replicate it, because it is, like I said, it is impossible for me to show you this stuff as much as I would like to. It's dark in here. There's not a lot of room to sit the camera and myself in here to do such things. So I tried to explain it the best I could. And for the little people in the back, that wasn't a jab at anybody that's anything, okay? But if this window will not go up far enough, those three bolts that your window guides are on, you need to move that panel up. That will allow this glass to come up and fit tighter in here. As you can see, I can still run my finger around it. If this glass, these go in or out, That is the 2 bolts down here that bolt to the rocker panel. You loosen them up and you can pivot that in or out. Figured that would be a representation of what the adjustments do. So let me get this window adjusted up, guys, cleaned up, because you know I've got that anti-seize grease stuff all over my hands, which is why I prefer to use that instead of any kind of actual grease. This stuff will wash off with soap and water pretty easily off your skin. It'll wipe off surfaces clean. So I'm going to get this cleaned up. I'm going to get this window adjusted, and then I'll be back. Well, the quarter glass is installed. There's a couple things I don't like about this ACP window. I'll pan up and down here so maybe some of you can notice it. But we have a window that rolls up and down smoothly. I robbed my stop out of my 66, and you do not want this glass to go down below your little window fuzzy. I popped it in there too while I was here, because if it goes down below it, it will rip this thing off and tear it off. So got our window in. We get this off. Get the door back open. And I'll show you the bottom stop. 65s generally had a little round rubber piece, little rubber bushing that bolted through the track back there at the bottom to keep it from doing the same thing. This is kind of a hodgepodge. And on the lower stop, you got a choice between upper and lower bowl hole, or you stick a second bolt in there if you wanted to. But it's adjusted where it needs to be. It goes down and hits that stop at the bottom. I know a lot of you probably realize how bad it is to put together a car, you know, that you don't know what somebody's messed with or monkeyed with or left bolts out of or parts off of. And I sure know the owner of this car absolutely has no clue what it's like to deal with this kind of stuff. But I can tell you this, guys, it is not fun putting together an old car, especially when you can't just run to a parts store and grab pieces for that might be missing fasteners, or you know, special fasteners or bolts or things like those quarter glass stops because somebody has changed the window regulator stuff in it before. So unfortunately, I've not found that stop bracket new. I'm going to have to put another set in my 66, so I'm going to have to figure that out. But the driver's side is done. So now all I got to do is repeat this pane on the passenger side. And then we can work on putting some more of the fun things on the inside that make it actually look better. But at least the window rolls up and down in it now. Before, they didn't really operate all that great. I don't know if I showed it in an earlier video or not, because it's been so long ago now. But it does work as intended. The big question is it watertight? I highly doubt it. Even though it's as tight to the rubber as I can get it, both in the back plane and the up plane, like I've told you 100 times in these videos so far, especially our last one, these cars are almost 100% not watertight. They're not a boat. They are a 60s car, so you got 60s quality. And then, when you redo them again, you know, say 60 years later, you know, like we're doing now, and especially one that's been cut all to pieces, and then you deal with reproduction stuff, those chances go down quite greatly. And I don't care how hard you try, guys, sometimes it's just not a thing that happens. So it's definitely going to be probably a fair weather car, unfortunately. Most classic cars are better suited to be a fair weather car. And if you do get water in them, you need to get it out as quick as possible. So, let me get this passenger side in here, guys. I showed you how to clean that stuff up. I showed you the best I could on the driver's side. So let me get the passenger side in there. And I'll be back when things are a little more fun for everybody. Well, it's a new day and Daisy's out here checking out everything. You want to remind them about your shirts? Yeah. Happy this morning. Alright, so yesterday I got both windows installed. I got them where they roll up and down decent. Sometimes these things can be finicky, guys, and you're going to have to adjust around on it until it rolls up right. And sometimes they just never roll up quite right, because you don't know if somebody screwed with something or what have you. But these are good and smooth. They look like they're going to seal off well. So I've been here this morning working on some other stuff, so I'll flip around and show it to you. So I've been working on putting some other seals on the car. And Daisy's in there checking the carpet out that we installed. But these are the quarter post seals. Right here is the part numbers. Well, what you get are these right here, and you get the correct style screws to install them. These things are pretty easy to install. But sometimes, especially on a car like this, you can see that they had drilled multiple holes and things, and we're going to have to re-drill this hole where I weld this quarter panel back on. But Daisy is very interested in the carpet. So let's get these things on here. At least get the other side on it, and we move along to, like I said yesterday, some more fun things. And don't worry about Daisy. She's not going to claw the carpet or roll around on it and get it full of cat hair. She's just literally just smelling around. So let's get this thing on there. So those are pretty easy to install. So our next piece that we need to install is the metal quarter panel trim pieces. They go on either side of the rear seat. So I'll flip them around. I'll show you his old ones. If you remember back when we painted the car, I painted inside stuff. I painted these panels too. They are fairly rough, but they look okay, and they'll look okay in the car. These things are fairly rough from the factory. So let me flip around and show them to you. So, like I said, we got these things painted. I didn't spend a whole lot of time cleaning the back side of them because they have insulation and stuff from the factory. Unfortunately, there's only like one vendor that sells this insulation, and this stuff was full of rat things and everything else. So we'll get into more on the rat things here in a moment, but we get to the back seat, we'll have to get to that point. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to scrape the rest of this stuff off. I'm going to take some of our aluminum peel and stick stuff that I put in the floor, put it on the inside of these panels. I'm not going to coat the whole thing, just about what the factory did. And that'll just kill some of that tinny sound that it's got. So keep that sound in mind. Because I'm going to show you in after we put that insulation on there, and you'll be surprised of how much of that tinny sound is actually not there anymore. So let's get to clean these things up and get some insulation put on. So you remember the sound we had before? Well, it's not beautiful, guys. I just kind of laid it like the factory insulation was glued on. There's a few gaps and stuff. It's not going to matter in this application. What we're trying to do is just kind of deaden the, the teeny sound of this panel. And as you can tell, even over here, we no longer have a teeny sound. Sounds more like wood or fiberglass. And that's how that sound deadening works, guys. Peel and stick stuff. Like I said, I'm not worried about coating the whole inside of that thing. It does add a significant amount of weight to it. It probably weighs double what it did. But it will make the car that much nicer to drive. So our next thing is we need to get the little fuzzy strips attached up at the top of these panels. And there's a bunch of different ways you can do them. They had these screwed on there before with Phillips head screws that actually contacted the window. So they're supposed to be stapled in from the factory. Our fuzzy kit did not come with staples. I've seen people pop rivet them. I'm not going to pop rivet them on because anything you put over this fuzzy, guys, is going to stick out. So I'm going to glue these on with our weather strip adhesive. And I'm going to do it like I showed you in our last video, where I'm just going to put a thin coat on the panel. I'm going to put a thin coat on the inside of this. let it tack good, come back and put a little bit more on the rubber side, because these are rubber on the back side and it will glue to the metal just fine. And do them like I did that test panel that I showed you guys. I was looking around to see if I seen it. I still got it around here to shop. I tried to rip rubber off of it 2 or 3 times and that didn't happen. So I feel pretty good about that process. So let's get these things glued on there. And alright, after you get that glued on there, you should look something like this. I like to put mine up flush up here. It looks more factory that way instead of being down in the center. So at this point, you're ready to put this on there. This piece from the factory has a screw that goes through here. It goes through the package tray, and this slides under the package tray, the vinyl portion, and the metal piece. Slides in between right there. And generally these have a cardboard spacer attached to them to keep you from over tightening and pushing everything down, making it look funny. These, however, do not have them. So I'm going to get this in the car and have a look at how things look. Like I said, these things aren't in the best shape. They're kind of bent up and they're kind of, you know, they're not great at all. But they should look decent. So I hope I explained how that goes. Let's see if we can't get these in the car. I'm going to put y'all back on time lapse. Your kick panel trim, your door scuff plate, not kick panel trim, your door scuff plate has to come back off. It goes under that also. And there should be a piece of windlace at the front. So I don't have the windlace for those pieces quite yet. So I'm going to go ahead and put them on there. See if I can't snake it under the seal plate, scuff plate, seal plate, and we'll get this thing in there. Well, no wonder this thing had about half the screws and was installed about halfway before. So I've got it in here and I've changed some things a little different from how Ford done it. I'm still gonna have to get a piece of windlace for our front edge right here, and that'll help pull some of this in up here. I got a little tension bow in it that you can hear it right here. But it's down on the top where it's supposed to go. It's under the package tray up there where it's supposed to go. It's attached at the bottom like it's supposed to, and the other 3 screws are in it. So I'm gonna flip around and I'm gonna show you what I changed from the Ford way of doing things, or things I've seen on other ones of these cars that I really didn't like. And I've seen it a lot on these cars. This bottom edge right here, as you see, it didn't get no paint on it right here, but that's not gonna matter right now. You got a screw right here, a 5/16 screw that tightens down, holds this to the rocker panel in there. And of course you got this one right here, and this one up here. It's kind of murdered around it and got all kinds of weird screw holes drilled in it. But I see people put these things in here with the screw just sticking out, you know, like a sore thumb. So what I done, I just took and trimmed this carpet. I glued it to it with some of our weather strip adhesive right here. And it just makes it look a lot cleaner. Maybe that's the way it's supposed to be. I don't know. But it looks a lot better than, you know, that just hanging down there with a screw jammed in it. And, you know, you will see a portion of that with seat in it. So we got one side installed. I've just got to get our weather strip glued on the other side, some insulation on it. And we can come back and get the other side installed. I've got some new window cranks over here in the box. I'll cover that here in just a moment. But let me get this other piece of weather strip glued on here and the other insulation on this other side. and we'll go from there. Alright, so it's a little while later. I got that other side took care of. Driver's side, like I seen before, was in. But when I said something about rat nasty stuff, this is his back seat that was in the car. When I pulled it out, I noticed it had some of, this stuff in here. It's had a rat inside of it, or a mouse at one time, eating the insulation out between this new seat cover, which is not put on properly, but they look okay, and we're just going to put them back in. But I got to clean all this stuff out of here, where it's all packed down in here, because I can't put this car back together with this stuff in there. It's everywhere. So that's one of the compromises I made with this car, was reuse his seats. Even though they're not in the greatest shape on the bottom side, the top side of them, they did put new covers on them. Even though they're not quite installed right and don't have the right amount of insulation or anything in them, they do look decent. So let's get that thing cleaned up. We'll flip it over, clean top side of it. We'll get the back seat started in the car. Well, that's about as cleaned out as it's going to get. Cleaned up pretty decent. Spray this thing down with some of this. Just the killing kind of bacteria that were in this stuff. So, and it sure ain't going to hurt nothing. Sure ain't going to hurt a thing when it comes to rat urine and feces smells. So while that's drying out, let's flip this thing over and give it a good wipe down on the top side. And I think we'll be ready to put the top in the car. And alright, after you get your back seat clipped in, there's two little U-shaped clips up there. Clip it to the back of the seat frame. You will have two bolts down here that retain the seat back. And how you know if this seat is in the proper position, it will overlap your package tray and line up with the back sides of the metal pieces. So the back seat is very easy to install. So if you put floor pans in it or weld up all the holes, you will have to re-drill them holes for them two bolts. That comes in the AMK interior master set. Right here, it comes with the correct bolts. So I put them in there. So now we need to get the seat bottom cleaned up and we can get it installed. So it'll be the same process as the upper piece. We'll vacuum off the inside of the bottom, spray it with some disinfectant. I'm going to flip it over and we'll spray it down with disinfectant and then clean it with a rubbing alcohol. It's the best way I've found to clean this stuff that don't really hurt anything. So let's get to it. So the back seat bottom is in quite bad shape, guys. I'm going to flip it around and I'm going to show you the difference between a good upholstery job and a bad upholstery job. And I'm going to show you what the seat frame looks like. I got the material cleaned. I'm not real happy with how the bottom of it looks. But there's not a whole lot you can do here other than stripping the material off of it and then sandblasting the frame, and then you get into a whole mess there too. So we may just have to live with this like it is. Or I may spray some rust encapsulator stuff, some of that fake rust killer that I got from my 66 on it. But nobody's ever going to be able to sit in this back seat for any amount of time, or it's just going to completely fall apart. So, how to grade your upholstery. And you shouldn't be seeing metal pieces poking out. So there's nothing in between, no kind of burlap or anything stretched over this frame. And the frame's trying to poke out right there out of the material. They did not clean the seat frames at all. These things are rusty and crusty all the way across. I know some of it don't look so bad on camera, but they didn't even replace this burlap. They used some universal block foam, I guess from somewhere, to try to build these seats up. Didn't, like I said, didn't wrap no burlap around this stuff to keep the metal frame from eating through the vinyl over time. So this is what a poor upholstery job looks like. So even though it might look pretty on top side, guys, you need to make sure they do their job down here in the bottom too. Because as you can see, this burlap is come apart. It's just rotten. And then they use some foam that don't belong in this seat to put on it. So while it looks pretty from this side, any kind of use, and this thing's going to break down, guys. Unfortunately, in situations like that, there's not a whole lot you can do. I can surely wire brush part of the frame that's the worst and spray something on it. And that's probably what I will do in the background here. But not 1 inch of this car has it been hacked up at this point. So some of this stuff ain't perfect on this car, guys, and I know you see it in the videos, but I'm just trying to make it less bad than it was before. And sometimes, you know, you don't have no choice but like that seat over there than to use it, because the material looks fine, and I hate to tell him it needs a seat reupholstery and probably needs a lower seat frame, because, you know, that's going to add up real super quick. So at this point, it's just about kind of getting the car together and making it a car again, and trying to make it as decent as we can in a driver kind of quality way. And that's all I've ever shot for with this car from the beginning, is driver quality, guys. It will be a nice car, but it will not be a 100-point show car. And hopefully it'll give him many years of service. So let me clean the bottom of this frame up just a little bit, best I can. All I can do is spray something on it and hope that it don't get no worse. But yeah, that's what the bad upholstery job looks like. Even though the top side of it looks beautiful, the bottom side of it is hot garbage waiting to happen. I'll clean this up, spray some matte rust stuff on it. I'm not real happy at all with this seat frame at all for its lower. Let me flip it around. Alright. You guys see that, right? Yep. That's not the only spot. There's some others in the thing. The problem here is, it's not just the rust, that this outside frame around through here is what supports your weight on this seat. So when this thing finally collapses, all 4 of these, this seat's going to collapse and this be sat on the floor. Guess that's a problem for somebody later, but yeah. And never to save you money, you know. This is what it is. Otherwise, we replaced everything on the interior except for them rear quarter metal pieces and the dash frame itself, even though I had to do a bunch of work to the dash. So maybe it'll last for a while, because the likelihood of reusing this cover on another frame, considering how it's, you know, all botched together, is probably pretty low. So it's gonna let it ride. It was in it before, it looked alright in it before, but it's not in the greatest shape at all. So let's get it back in there. So got the rear seat in there. As you notice, I did not add no rear seat belts to this car. As you've seen with seat, nobody needs to be sitting back here anyway. So this thing literally just slides in there, guys. It clips over in 2 tabs in the front of your floorboard, and you're pretty much done as far as installing the seat. So the rear half of our interior is installed. We still need to put the window crank handles on there, so let's get to that. So your rear interior cranks, you have 2 different styles. You have a clip-on and you got a screw-on style. This car has the clip-on styles. So there's your part number for your quarter window ones. You'll have to search, but these little plastic discs go behind here over your little thing right there, and they just keep this from scratching up your metal pane on the inside, your painted metal stuff. So your front doors also have a spring that goes behind them. I didn't cover that, but I did put those behind the rear ones too, so they're back there. But those go behind your window regulator things right here on the inside of the panel, and pushes the panel out, so all this is flush around it. So once again, they're one of the things that's easy to install that you really don't need me to show you. Some of them have Allen screws. The rear ones on this one has a flathead screw, so I'm going to use a pocket screwdriver. I'm going to put these on here in the position I want them. Take my pocket screwdriver, tighten up the little pinch set screw in it, and that'll keep these handles on the car. And there's about 100 different positions you can install these in, guys. I like them to face backwards when the window's up, like this. That way when the window's rolled down, it's facing downward. So, just your preference. Because there's about 100 different ways you can put that on there. Just depends on what you want it to look like when the window's up or the window's down. So, I'd rather them be facing down when the window's down. That way, if you're at a car show or something, it looks somewhat decent. So that puts them facing the back of the car with them all the way up. And as you've seen, that window rolls up and down nice and smoothly, which is what you want also. That's why I greased all that stuff. So we're about at the stopping point on the interior stuff until I make another order for my friends over at Kentucky Mustang. So make sure you check them out, guys. There's a discount code down in the description below. So I need to order some wind lace and some other little small things for the rear half of this interior to finish it up. So at this point, I'm pretty much at a kind of a pause. I need to order another ship boot. The factory one wouldn't work. So the only thing I can really put on this car at this point, because I need to order new vent windows too, and I need to dig his old door glass out, and I've got to order some window rollers for the front regulators because they're gone and wore out. So about the only thing we can do here is I dug his old door handles out and his old door locks. We can put that new stuff in on the outside of the car, and that'll keep me from having to reach through the inside and trying to move an old window crank around to open and shut the doors on it. So let's get to that. So here is his old stuff that was on the car, and here is the new door handles I'd bought. These are Scott Drake right here, and there is the part number. These are supposed to be show quality, so this means they're better chromed than the old ones. Well, when I say old ones, better quality than the cheap ones. If you can see his door handles, these were what was on the car. Right here. They're probably an original set that, you know, wasn't horrible. And here's the door locks that were on it, and we got new ones of those. But we're going to need these little clips and stuff out of these. So, same with the door handles right here. We're going to need these little clips out of them too. So, let's get these things opened up. See what we're getting into. So, when you get your door handles out, that's what you're going to end up with, guys. It's a build-it-yourself kit. So, there's a bunch of different ways these things can go together. They do send an O-ring right here to act as a stop for your button there so it don't clank and rattle around. So these are going to come with these pieces right here, and they're going to be right and left. I, in the past, usually prefer to use the original ones of these pivots because usually they're better quality. But his old stuff is hot garbage, so we don't really have that option. So these are pretty easy to put together. You just gotta hold your mouth right. But pretty much your button's gonna go in. You're gonna have a spring right here. Then this is gonna go in there like this. This is gonna hook through that hole. And you're gonna have a screw hole right there. And it's gonna come with a screw. And this screw is gonna go in that hole. So let me get a Phillips head screwdriver. And the tip that's going to help you greatly doing this. Get you some blue Loctite. Like this stick right here. Just put a little bit on that screw. For this lock push plate here. And it's only got one screw. So you want to make sure that thing's not going to vibrate or fall out, so a little Loctite on it will go a long ways. Just get that in there and tighten it up. And what happens is when you push your button, that just pushes it right there. And it's also got an R and an L stamped on it. That's going to be where your rod clips in. So these did come with new rod clips, surprisingly. So this is the right hand side, which would be the passenger side. So this clip should just push right in there. And of course, with the quality, they won't. So I'll have to drill that out slightly. But before we get that deep, let's go ahead and get one of the studs in it right here. Your forward position up here, it goes inside the doors, get a stud in it. So I'll just put a little Loctite on that feller too right there. Screw him in there. He should be good. Your rear position back here has a Phillips head screw that goes through like this. And we're not going to put no Loctite on it, but just kind of keeping you aware there. So let me figure out what size I got to drill this out to, so this new clip actually goes in there. I'm not real thrilled with that, but you kind of get what's going on. So I just used the next size bigger drill bit and ream that hole out, and now our clip's in there. So you'll have a couple of gaskets. They'll go on there too. And I dropped this one in the floor because, you know, they don't stay on there because they're pinched between the door and the handle. But at this point, we're ready to put these things on there. And you're going to have a nut right here on the car. On the inside, you're going to have a Phillips head screw pass through your door jamb in through this way. And then you're going to have your rod that clips on right there. So as the thing for this video, once again, something I can't show you inside the door while I'm doing it, so I'm going to put you guys on a time lapse. Let's get these door handles installed. And magically, you know, everything fit great and the door opens fine, right? Okay, it opens with hardly any button movement, right? It's not going to do that when you put it in. Not with those new pivots. And I'm going to try to show you up in here what I've done. And this is going to be hard, but we got a flashlight stuck in this door. And kind of faced up in here. So, if you look up in there, you can see I put a kink in that rod. That will not affect with our door lock operation. But what happens is, with that rod being straight like factory, that pivot up there does not contact that button for a long ways. And as you can see, it acts like it sticks up, but it actually does not when you're opening and shutting the door. But you may have to bend around on the rod a little bit. And that is why most of the time people always recommend to reuse your factory pivot stuff. I'm not sure if those on the other door handles are factory or not, but I know I had problems opening the doors. And I wasn't real happy with how they felt the first time when I took it apart. So, I'm going to bend around on the rod here a little bit. You just want to make sure that you just kind of take up some of the slack, guys. Not, you ain't got to take up all the slack, just some of the slack. You know, and you just want to make sure when you push that button up in there, that actually releases that rod where you can open the door. So get the door lock in. You get your door lock rod, you get your clip in there, it clips on. You clip for your door lock, pushes on, and locks in. I use the original clips, not these that come with new locks. 64.5 through 66 cars do not use gaskets on the door locks. So just keep that in mind, guys. They're not set up for that stuff. And perhaps the most important thing of all, you want to make sure when your door's locked, that your door's locked. You also want to make sure your door unlocks. And you want to do this multiple times. And just make sure everything functions. And sometimes your friend WD-40 on that hinge in there, on your door latch will really, really, really smooth things up. So, one side down, one to go. And to save yourself a little hassle, guys, get you a 1024 tap. Tap that rear hole in this door handle right here. It'll save you a bunch of heartache and hassle, because I just went through that on that car with that back screw on the passenger side. Yeah, I couldn't get it in there. It wouldn't go in there by no means of the imagination. I grabbed tap, run in there, went right in. During the chroming process, they must forget to plug that hole, but you can be darn sure on this driver's side handle. I'm going to check it. And you don't have to use a drill. I just found it faster, and it was on the car already, and I just, you know, done that thing. And there is one thing I wanted to cover on this side. I was going to film me doing the passenger driver's side, but I figured some people would be confused how to get this in here, because this is bigger than the hole, you know, it don't just fall in. So what I usually do is I'll just kind of walk this assembly in here like this, and you just kind of gotta find that feel for it, and once you get the right combination of things, guys, it will just sit right down in there. More you know. Yeah, a little WD-40 later, and some fighting with this Taiwan door. We have a door that opens and shuts, and locks and unlocks. That's it, guys. Every single piece that I put on this car has fought in some way, shape, form, or fashion since the beginning. This car has been bad luck and all kinds of bad things, but you know, nobody ever knew it was going to go smooth, especially how bad it was when we first started. But literally, I went to put that driver's side door handle on there, and the screws wouldn't even line up. I had door handle up before, but it's all monkeyed up. Hence why I ordered new door handles, other than the chrome was messed up on them. And it's not the door handle itself's fault. It's the way it bolts to the door itself. It's got a Ford door on the passenger side. It's got a Taiwanese door on the driver's side of some brand, who knows. Probably 80s, 90s Golden Legion quality door. If anybody knows what Golden Legion is, they made these super thin panels for these cars that, like those front fenders that bend when you touch them the wrong way. So I'd assume that door's same quality. So when I put the door handle on, it wouldn't sit flat, and I had to monkey and kind of bend around on it a little bit there to get it in there. Right. So I've got everything put on the car that I actually have here to put on the car. I need to order some wind lace for those back quarter panel pieces. I need to get some rollers for front window regulators. We need to get some vent windows. And then we can move forward a little faster. It is ready to have the front seats put in. I'm not going to put them in until I get the shift boot on it. So I'm going to pause on those for now. And I'm kind of scared what the bottom of them looks like after seeing the bottom back seat and really looking at it. So this is where I'm going to leave this video off, guys. So if you like the videos of resurrecting this poor hack job of a 65 Mustang, make sure you hit that like button on these videos, share them with your friends, and if you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button. If you are a subscriber, I greatly appreciate you guys, and I look forward to everybody's comments down below. And also, I'm going to drop this here. If you're just now seeing this series, make sure you go back and watch this whole series from the beginning. There's a whole playlist on my channel, and this video will be in it. So until next time, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you at the next one.